So, first off, I apologize this video took me a while. Meant to get this out a long ass time ago, but never really had the will to play this game after a certain level gave me shit. I ended up ROM hacking the game after that just to give me some added leverage, and eventually that did help and I managed to beat this one. There have also been problems recording since they're doing construction on my street. So that hasn't helped any. Because, yeah, naturally I have to deal with noise problems at the same time. So let's once again dip into the life and times of the Master System and the Game Gear. Sega's 8-bit consoles didn't really leave too much of an impact here in the US. The Master System itself is almost entirely unknown here. It came out in a gaming market not only repaired, but also dominated by the NES. Luckily for Sega, Europe had no market crash and wasn't completely dominated, making the market a lot more profitable. The Master System thrived in Europe, and Sega's mascot was pretty popular there. I know you're thinking Sonic, but no, Sonic ended up replacing Alex Kidd. Alex Kidd was a mascot highly inspired by Sun Wukong. You know, the Monkey King. It's weird how Alex is inspired by the same character as Goku, considering Alex's replacement has a form inspired by Goku. Haha! Goku's just all over Sega's history, isn't he? Anyway, Alex was the title platforming mascot, but even when the Sega Genesis came out, the Master System ended up with Sonic love in Europe as well. I played the first game reviewing it, but it didn't really like it too much. I enjoyed the Game Gear version more. Ah yes, it's time to talk about the Eater of Batteries. The Game Gear is a bit more well known here in the United States compared to the Master System, as the Game Gear did a little better here. Still, it got wiped out by the Game Boy though. The Game Boy was a cheaper option overall and used less batteries, so it saved money in the long run too. But the Game Gear certainly was ahead of its time. This is why it was more expensive given, but still a backlight as well as actual color was really great, but the tech was just too new, hence why it needed more money. It also needed more batteries in general, 6 AA's compared to the Game Boy's 2. Still, it didn't stop it from having Sonic games all over the damn place. Hell, it probably had more Sonic games than the Genesis or the Mega Drive if you're in Europe. After Sonic hit the Master System a few months later, he showed up here on the Game Gear. Because of this, the Game Gear had a tad bit more polish, making it my preferred and more recommended version of the first Sonic game in 8-bit. That shit didn't happen here though. Sonic 2 released the same time on the Master System and the Game Gear, and since it was developed mostly with the Master System in mind, that version is easily better. At least, I think that's what happened, is the screen crunch on the Game Gear version is notoriously bad, making the game far more difficult. Most people don't recommend the handheld version, and I didn't play it much. Screen crunch like crazy, and there's a lot of crap trying to kill you from off-screen. Nah, I stuck with the Master System version this time around, and since this is a mission to rescue Tails, instead of calling this Round 2 with Dr. Eggman or Round 2.5 or whatever, I named it for Tails. So enough research from Sega's older consoles, and finding out that Aladdin on the Master System is an autorunner, that's kind of weird. Let's do this. Let's take on Tails! Or rather, Tails' rescue mission. But that doesn't roll off the tongue as well as just take on Tails. I'd rather have people I'm fighting the poor fox. Still, thanks to the Game Gear, this won't be the last time. Regardless, Tails has been captured by Dr. Eggman, and the ransom is the 7 Chaos Emeralds. 6 Chaos Emeralds, sorry. There's only 6 in here, but I ended up writing 7 instead. I guess that's a force of habit. If you don't get them, the game just kind of ends, by the way. If Adventure 2 is anything to go by, Tails was probably shot. Or maybe this bad ending created the universe that the Tails doll comes from. Oh boy. If you do happen to nab all 5 emeralds available, I accidentally wrote down 6 again, the 6th emerald is just kind of given to you at the end of the game, allowing you to access the true final boss and to rescue Tails. That being said, if Sonic is working for Dr. Eggman, then why are all these boss fights about? Isn't Sonic helping the good doctor? Why fight him? Hell, Eggman even saved Sonic before the first boss, saving him from lava, only to drop it into a boss fight And all the boss fights aren't Eggman. That's kind of weird. They're all robots based on animals. Maybe the animals of this island had enough of Eggman's shit or trying to stop Sonic from giving him the Chaos Emeralds? Nah, that can't be right either. Maybe Eggman is trying to convert Sonic to his side? Like, hey, I know I was holding your friend ransom, but look at all these asshole animals. But then, after slaying one of these animal robots, you do tear open a UFO holding a ton of small animals, and these UFOs look just like Dr. Eggman. Nope, no idea. Tails being in pre-level pictures doesn't necessarily clear things any better either. Dang, they really didn't know what to do here, did they? Look, at the end of the day, I'm well aware that the manual states that Dr. Eggman created these master robots, which aren't totally ripping off Dr. Wily, right? Yeah, okay. And I'm aware that the only reason Sonic needs the emeralds is to reach the place Tails is at for some unexplained reason. I'm just wondering why all this trouble, especially knowing that Sonic was literally saved by Dr. Eggman in the first level. None of this really makes sense. The story is original, but ultimately not written well. To no shock of Sonic fans, though, the music isn't too bad. The Master System and the Game Gear didn't have the best sound quality ever, but they did okay with these tracks for sure. Underground Zone is a tune that I'm very familiar with due to how many times I've actually played this game on different collections on the GameCube. It isn't a bad track, does the job well, and I don't hate it despite how many times I've heard it, so that's probably a good thing, I'm just saying. None of the soundtrack is exactly bad, but there is indeed a couple low points here and there. Particularly the Crystal Egg Zone is not fun to listen to because it's more or less a bit more high-pitched. It's really loud at the start of the track. It's not terrible once it gets going, but that first couple of seconds is kind of ear-grating. Also, the boss track is different between versions. I don't mind either or, but I feel the Game Gear version is slightly better overall. As for the way the game looks, it looks great both versions and doesn't have a lot of graphical differences this time around. Honestly, while it is off-putting to see Sonic in 8 bits, I think this design works well for the blue blur overall, and Tails looks great. Most of the enemy design is fine, often reusing artwork from the Genesis Sonic games, but some enemies are original here as well. The bosses are all unique though. Some of them are a little hard to tell what animal they're supposed to be, but overall I like the designs of these master robots. I think Eggman in this final fight looks a bit lackluster, but the levels all look really cool for 8-bit graphics. Yeah, this game looks and sounds pretty damn good, other than the start of Crystal Egg Zone. Haha! And yes, the game plays fine as well, with some few issues here and there. The biggest issue is building momentum at a standstill. Sonic's default speed seems overly slow. Also, you have knockback. Oh, yay! Now, all of this was in Sonic 1 8-bit as well, but it wasn't as apparent as it is in this game. Now, that is, of course, more of an issue with level design, but I figured I'd bring it up here anyway. Outside of these smaller issues, the game plays fine. Sonic has loops, which is a new addition, runs fast and goes faster when rolling into a ball while going downhill. Yeah, he also moves slower in water, so I'm glad that returned. Sonic also has some level gimmick moves like hopping on water, using this stupid-ass hang glider, and floating in bubbles while underwater. None of these are great, but work fine once you get used to them, with the hang glider being the obvious awkward one. Even this I got used to in time, however. I wouldn't say I mastered the hang glider to any actual use, but I managed to get it after a while. Now for some improvements from the 8-bit Sonic 1. Loops, as I mentioned earlier, are back, and that's actually really nice. Sonic actually drops rings this time around, which is kind of nice because you can collect them, saving your ass a couple of times. It saved my ass a few times anyway. The Master System version also doesn't have Sonic an inch away from the screen. Yeah, that one's a big one. Sonic was super close to the screen's edge in the Master System version than Sonic 1, which is why I didn't really like it all that much. But here, he's far more centered. That's more like it. Given the screen crunch in the Game Gear sucks, but overall, I don't think Sonic 2 on the 8-bit consoles controls badly at all, despite the smaller issues. After all, it is the level design that makes these issues a lot more noticeable. Let's start with the positives, though. All these levels are unique. Yeah, that's probably the best part, that these levels aren't just copies from Sonic 2, although the same was mostly true for the previous game as well. Yeah, outside of the level gimmicks being a bit of a pain, most of the levels are perfectly fine to play. The boss fights are all of a similar caliber as well. Sucks you don't get any rings for those, though. Yeah, none of the boss fights give you rings, making them all roughly as challenging as the final boss fights in the Genesis games. Damn. You also have a level to get through. Yay! No rings in the entire level, and while the levels are often shorter than the standard ones, the Act 3 levels can still be pretty tough just because you don't get any rings. You cannot screw up once or you die. In particular, Green Hills Zone Act 3. I hate it! It is almost nothing but spiked floors with a few small springs to land on and some safe platforms here and there. You miss a spring or a platform and you die, which isn't hard to do since Sonic goes so far into the air you can't fully make out where you're landing. The boss fight isn't a slouch either, since all of these have unique patterns and aren't typical Eggman boss fights. This means you may die quickly while trying to learn how to fight the damn boss. Take this seal robot. My first time fighting this damn thing was horrid. I had no clue what to do. Turns out you have to hit the ball on its nose while it's inflating. Once you know this and get the timing down, this boss is a cakewalk. But until then, you die a lot. Yay! Trial and error! Yay! There are a few of these kinds of sections all throughout the game. This area in Scrambled Egg Zone, where you have to use a pipe to correctly navigate moving platforms, or you die because you get stuck in this game of trial and error, and more or less until you get the timing down, there's a bed of spikes, you can't escape it, you just sit there until you die. Yay. This bubble area in Aqua Lake Zone sucks too. Most of the bubble floating areas aren't too bad, but the final one is super long. You mess up and you have to slowly fall all the way back down. Not only are you low on air getting back down here, but due to the knockback, you can collide with an enemy or a trap along the way down that you can't avoid. If you got hit twice, you're dead. As if that section isn't slow enough, especially for a Sonic level. And can I say, Aqua Lake Zone? Redundant name, huh? What next? Air Sky Zone? No, that was Sky High Zone, my bad. Okay, jokes aside. There is some rough terrain, and the last few levels, due to all the wacky tube nonsense, creates a lot of trial and error. Also, the final fight with Eggman? You navigate a tube! Yay. Sauron takes on tubes. That probably would have worked, huh? Dang, tubes suck. Not really, though. Not the biggest fan of the final boss, but I suppose it's not the worst thing ever. Honestly, you most likely will never see this fight if you played the Game Gear version anyway. You most likely won't even see this final boss or fight in the Master System version either. The final level and fight, which the final level is stupidly easy by the way, you won't see them until you gain all 6 Chaos Emeralds. 5 of them are hidden in Act 2 of the first 5 levels, and the 6th one you get by destroying the Silver Sonic-like robot in the 6th level. However, unless you have a guide or really dedicated, you may not actually find these. If you don't have them, the game ends just suddenly after the Silver Sonic boss fight. Getting them requires you to go out of your way to hit the top sections of each level. These made many Act 2 levels less than fun compared to their Act 1 levels. When playing normally, they aren't bad. But man, some of these Chaos Emeralds are one-and-done situations. You either get it, or you burn off a life. This is another reason I decided to pirate instead of, actually playing the legit version, because save states made this more manageable. Still annoying, but manageable. The first 2 levels have the hardest 2 Chaos Emeralds. Getting the emerald in the first level has some minecarts that I ended up ignoring just so I could roll into a ball trying to build up speed, but even then, these are still incredibly picky jumps. The second level with an emerald has you bouncing off clouds, but like Green Hills, you gain so much height, it's nearly impossible for you to not miss your mark. You have to bounce off specific clouds, but thankfully, unlike the first level, this emerald isn't a one-chance kind of deal. The only other emerald like that is a tube in Aqua Lake, but once you know where it's at, it's pretty easy to get. Everything else you can retry at least once you know where the emerald actually is. Obviously, the first emerald is the hardest one to get, with the emeralds getting kind of easier and easier to get once you know their general location. But that's just bizarre design. Since the normal game doesn't save though, this makes the jumps in the first level super frustrating. But then it does get easier as it goes along. Look, this game is weird and kind of exhausting to even talk about. It seems like every good idea they have, there is a bad or poorly executed idea to drag the game back down. The story's kind of crap even for a simple platformer, but the music and graphics are really good for the console. The gameplay is really solid, but then there's issues with collectibles and the levels themselves. Not enough to make the subjects horrible, but for every good point there seems to be a bad. There is slightly more love in this game, making it somewhat worthwhile in the end, but this game is just okay. Better than mediocre, but not by much. Sitting at roughly a 6 out of 10, this Sonic game is skippable. If you didn't feel like playing it, that is. Just play the Master System version if you are going to play it, though. The Game Gear screen crunch doesn't work with the level design, bumping the game down to just meh due to the difficulty. Maybe even not great. That would be 5 out of 10 or 4 out of 10, depending on how negative you are. But that's all the time I have for this review. Next time we see Sonic, it'll be one of two reviews. Either I'll be a double header with Sonic Chaos and Sonic Labyrinth for the Game Gear, or one large Sonic 3 and Knuckles review. Either way, that's for next season. If you liked the video, please like, subscribe, or comment. That all helps out. And the bell button gives you live updates on my work, like other reviews and my Let's Play videos. Until next time, my minions, take care.